Siyata Deshmaya Shabbos Parsha Pekudei Tavshin Lamed. This is a mimer that was that's a Mugadic mimer in 1970. Eilub Pekudei HaMishkan. It says in the pasuk, these are the numbers, accounts of Mishkan, Mishkan Ha'edus, the Mishkan of testimony. It says Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe, that was counted and commanded according to Moshe. Because it's known the question and examination of it. A cause of Mishkan based upon it. Why does it have to say in the pasuk twice the word Mishkan? Should say Eilep Kude HaMishkan Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe. Why does it say twice the idea of the word Mishkan? It says Gamsar will have, and also we need to understand Masher Nemar that Shema Mishkan Aleph Nemar Mishkan stop the first Mishkan. It says just Mishkan. It doesn't say give it a particular title. What type of Mishkan? Mishkan of testimony. Mishkan Abayz Nemar Mishkan Aedus. And the second time where it says Mishkan, it says the Mishkan of testimony, the Mishkan of Aedus. And also when you understand that it says that was counted by Moshe, the Shnei Pirushim Bezeh, there are two explanations what it means. Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe, Koy Al Desamach Le Al Mishkan Ha'edus. It's referring to what it says right before it. Right before it, it says Mishkan Ha'edus. So that Mishkan Ha'edus was counted according and by Moshe. That's why it says it was counted. It in the singular. Only one Mishkan was counted through Moshe, the Mishkan of the Edus. There's another explanation that it's not just going on the one Mishkan, but it's actually going on separate Mishkanos as well, on both Mishkanos. It says, where it says that was counted according to Moshe, it's referring to the general idea of the Mishkan, not just the level of the Mishkan Ha'edus, Gamma, Mishkan Stam, also what it says, the regular level of Mishkan, the ordinary Mishkan that it says before, Eilep Kudei HaMishkan, that's one level, and Mishkan Ha'edus, that's the second level. Even more so, the simple meaning, the Ein Mikriyots and that the Pasuk doesn't leave it simple meaning, when it says that Moshe was counted by Moshe, which is Koyal Eilep Kudei HaMishkan, referring on the beginning of the Pasuk. These are the numbers of the Mishkan. First, he says this is the numbers, it's the count of the Mishkan. And afterwards, he explains that this was according to Moshe. So it makes sense that on the phrase Eilep Kudei HaMishkan, that's what's referring to Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe. And this is what we have to understand. The connection between the two explanations is Asher Pukad Al Pi Moshe referring to Mishkan Ha'edus, or Pukad Al Pi Moshe referring to the Mishkan of Eilep Kudei HaMishkan, Mishkan Stam, the ordinary Mishkan. Obviously, we don't know yet that there's what the difference is between the two, etc. But as we will go on, we will find out. Oizbeis. Put us up here because the point of the explanation, and this is Kidisbel to the Torah, brought down to the Torah, the Inyan, a Mishkan, Washras, Ashchina. What is the idea of the Mishkan? It's the residing of the Shechina, it's the dwelling of the Shechina. Also, like it says about the building of the Mishkan. Right away in Parshas Truma, when Hashem was commanding Moshe about building the Mishkan, it says, they shall make me a sanctuary, referring to the Mishkan. And I will dwell amongst them. These two ideas of the Mishkan, Mishkan Stam and Mishkan Ha'edus, the literal, the plain Mishkan that doesn't give any qualifiers to it. And the second time that it says Mishkan of testimony, In Beis Dargis B'Shchina, these are two levels in Shchina. It says Shchanti B'Soicham, that Hashem will dwell amongst them. So these are two levels in Hashem dwelling. What level of the Shechina we're talking about? In the the lower level of Shechina and the higher level of Shechina, as we'll soon explain what they are. I'll see how you do according to what's known called Echad Misrael and Mishkan and Migdash Lo Yisbarach. Every single Yid is a Mishkan and a sanctuary for Hashem. Command is all a pasuk, Vasily Migdash Shat B'Soicham, like Chazal say on the pasuk, they shall make for me a Migdash, and I shall dwell amongst them. It doesn't say in it I shall dwell in it, meaning in the building of the Mishkan or the Migdash. El b'soicham, it says I will dwell within them, meaning the Seichel Echad ve'Echad Yisrael, within each and every Yid, because each and every Yid is a Mishkan for Hashem. Movement, it's understood. These two ideas that are Mishkan Stam or Mishkan Ha'edus, the regular Mishkan, and the Mishkan of testimony. In Gamba, Mishkan the Yisrael is also to be found in the Mishkan, the personal Mishkan of every single Yid. He has that as well. Allah Pasuk Mishkan Ha'edus. Also, according to what the Chazal say, Mishkan of testimony. What does it mean, Mishkan of testimony? What is it testifying to? Talk about a testimony, it has to testify to something. What's it attesting to? They says, the Chazal say, Eidus hi l'chol b'olam, it was a testimony to all inhabitants of the world. It was testifying to the fact that Hashem was appeased concerning the Yid, even though the Yidden had sinned with the Cheta Egel. And one would think that therefore Hashem left the Yidden. So Hashem said, no, I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to show that I still am amongst the Yidden through the building of the Mishkan, which was given right after Yom Kippur, as we spoke about on previous occasions. So this was a testimony to the fact, this was bearing witness to the fact that Hashem had reconciled with the Yid. So therefore, based on this Maimer Chazal, we could explain the difference between Mishkan Stam and Mishkan Ha'edus. If Shlomo that says we could say the Zesh Yisrael a Mishkan Stam, why the Avodah Torah mitzvahs? When are Yidden the level of Mishkan without any description? The first word Mishkan in the pasuk, that's through the Avodah of doing Torah mitzvahs. Mishkan Ha'edus, or the Avodah of Tshuva, the fact that they are the Mishkan of testimony, that's the Avodah of Tshuva. Just like in the big Mishkan, what was the Mishkan Ha'edus about? What is the idea of being called Mishkan Ha'edus? It's about demonstrating that Hashem was appeased with the Yidden, which is the same idea of Tshuva. Mishkan Stam and Mishkan Ha'edus and Shchita Tatav Shchita Law, we can connect this with what was explained previously and brought down previously in the Torah. That the two Mishkan, or the ordinary Mishkan, and Mishkan Ha'edus is referring to the lower Shchina, and the upper Shchina, Shchita Tatav Malchus, Shchita Eloi bin brought down in Kabbalah that the lower level of Shchina, that is a level of Malchus. And the higher level of Shechina is the level of Bina. This is also known Emetata, Emilah, the lower mother, the higher mother. Both of them are the level of feminine. Bina is called the mother. Nukva Malchus is the other level of feminine, and so on. The Torah mitzvahs, la avoida tshuva, top of the next page. Similar vein is the difference, just like Shchinta Tatar and Shchinta Elah is the difference between Malchus and Bina. The same thing, what they represent, Mishkan and Mishkan Ha'edus, is also that difference. Shakim mitzvahs, mitzvahs Malchus. The fulfillment of mitzvahs, the mitzvahs of the king, that's a Malchus. A king gives commands. That's the level of Malchus. So the mitzvahs have to do with the sphere of Malchus. Ordinary Mishkan without the title Edus. The Tshuva, even Bina, and Tshuva we know has to do, the Zohar always explains that the level of Tshuva has to do with the level with the spirit of Bina. And soon we're going to explain how actually has to do with Bina and Mal. Yesh loymar also gets the kivur sham mishkan klolos am mishkan kapara cheta egel, since the mishkan, not just mishkan ha'edus, but the general idea of mishkan, it was to atone for the chet of the egel. As we know, the machzah shekel was supposed to be given as l'chaper al nafshei seichem. The machzah shekel was made from it. The Mishkan was built from it, and the Chapra Moshe to atone means for the Chet Egel. Gam the Mishkan Stam Nichlol Skam Avodas Hashuva. Therefore, also in the Mishkan without the title Edus is also included Avodas Hashuva. So before we said that Elat Kudi HaMishkan, that's the Avodah of Torah mitzvahs. Mishkan Ha'edus, that's the avodah of Tshuva. Now he's going to say the general idea of Mishkan is the level of Tshuva. But Mishkan Stam and Mishkan Ha'edus, so the difference between the ordinary Mishkan to the Mishkan of testimony is Mishkan Stam with Tshuva Tata, the ordinary Mishkan is the lower level of Tshuva. Mishkan Ha'edus with Tshuva Ilah is the higher level of Tshuva. Is a massive idea. I say, I'm moving to the Torah. Mishkan Stam, Mishkan Ha'edus, and Shkinta Data Malchus, Shkinta Ilah Bina. This fits in even more with what we brought down before from the Torah, that the Mishkan that doesn't say any description, that is the lower level of Shechina, which we said from the Zohar, that's Malchus, and the higher level of, or the Mishkan that has a title, Mishkan Ha'edus, that is the level of the higher level of Shechina, Bina. So it fits in very well. Yitshuva Tata, Yitashav Tata, Malchus. We know the Alter Rebbe says Niger Satshuva that Shuva Tata means you are returning the Hey, Tashuv Hey. Well, which letter Hey? In Yud Kei Vav Kei, the two letters of Hey. The lower, the latter, the last letter Hey Yud Kei Vav Kei goes on Spheres of Malchus. So that's Shuva Tata, returning the lower Hey back to its source. Then there's Tshuva Eloi, Tashuv Hey Eloi, Bina. And the higher level of Tshuva is returning the higher Hey, the first Hey in Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is corresponding to Sfira of Bina. So everything fits in very nicely to not only say that Mishkan versus Mishkan Ha'edus is Torah mitzvahs versus Tshuva, but Mishkan and Mishkan Ha'edus is two levels of Tshuva. Mishkan is Tshuva Tata, Mishkan Ha'edus is Tshuva Ilah. According, there's, even though we've been going now according to the view, and this is what's commonly brought down, that the tzivui, the man on the building of the Mishkan, collecting of money for the Mishkan, was before, it was after Yom Kippur. That by Yakel Moshe came down from Har Sinai after being up there for 40 days and getting Slichum Mechila, and he came down. He asked, and then he was told the Yidden, he told them about the building of the Mishkan, and he told them to collect money for the Mishkan. So that is the way we commonly learn, based on based on Rashi and so on. But there are other opinions also. There's two other opinions that split it. One opinion says that all of it was before the Chet Egel, that Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to build the Mishkan and collected the money for the Mishkan. Another opinion is he was commanded before and they collected the money after. So up till now that we've been explaining, it's the level of tshuva, lower tshuva, upper tshuva. It's because it follows after Yom Kippur, after the Chet Egel. So therefore, the Mishkan represents the idea of tshuva. So now the Rebbe is going to go, what about the opinion that holds that all of this was before the Chet Egel? According to the opinion that the command they shall make Shmiya Mikdash, and also the donation to the Mishkan was prior to the sin of the Egel, that then all the Yidden were in the level of Tzadikim. So therefore, it doesn't really fit that well to say that these are two levels in Shuvah. Yeah, we could say They have Mishkan, the two levels of the Mishkan, Mishkan Stam and Mishkan Eidos, the ordinary Mishkan and the Mishkan of testimony, so two levels of the service of tzaddikim. Verbal to the Torah, explaining to the Torah. Yisrael have Mishkan Stam, why they came mitzvahs, the fact that the Yidden are a regular Mishkan, that is through fulfillment of the mitzvahs as. Mishkan Eidos, fact they are the Mishkan of testimony, why they kill mitzvahs through the fulfillment of the negative commandments. That's what the Alter Rebbe says in Likutei Torah. Therefore, we can connect it with the two levels in Tzaddikim alone. In Torah mitzvahs itself, there's Aseh, Loisase, that's Mishkan, and Mishkan Ha'etz. Then the Rebbe adds, Le'yesh Loimar, another two components that the ordinary Mishkan could refer to, versus the Mishkan Ha'etz can refer to, still in the Avodah of Tzaddikim. So he says, perhaps we could say, the Mishkan B'avodas Tzaddikim, the two ideas of Mishkan in the service of Tzaddikim, Gamba Avodah the Koiches Pnimit is also in the Avodah of the inner soul powers, meaning the levels having to do with intellect and emotions, that which permeates the person. Mishkan, and that is the two levels of Mishkan. Mishkan Stam Avodas Halev, the ordinary Mishkan, that's the Avodah of the heart. Mishkan Ha'edus Avodas HaMoyach, and the Mishkan of testimony, that's the Avodah of the brain. What we said that has to do with Bina. Kasher is in Amavorb the Torah, Shnei, and Yon the Mishkan and Mitzvahs Asim, Mitzvahs Loisa. This explanation now that we said, that the ordinary Mishkan is heart, and the Mishkan Ha'edus is the level of the Avodah of the brain, can be connected with the two ideas of Mishkan that the Alter Rebbe said in the Torah, it's Aseh and Loisa, positive and negative command. Mitzvahs essay, Hem Bevav Kei Midas. The Alter Rebbe brings down in Tanya that Mitzvahs essay has to do with the letters Vav Kei of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is Hashem's emotional levels. Vav is Zah. Vav goes on the Shusha Midas of Zeir Ampin, Vehei Achrein and Malchus, and the final Hey goes on the spirit of Malchus. Mitzvahs Loisem be Yud Kei Moichin, and the negative commandments are in Yud Kei, the level of intellect. Yud, which is Chachma, Hey is in Bina. So therefore, it makes sense to say that the level of Mishkan Ha'edus, which Alter Rebbe says has to do with Mitzvahs Loisese, also by extension has to do with Avodas HaMoichin, because Mitzvahs Loisese has to do with the level of intellect, with the level of Yud. The Rebbe is going to continue now in explaining this concept about the Moichin versus the Midas in the person's Avodah. And how they are distinct in their mode of operation. Humans that behag the Torah, this will be understood by first prefacing what's explained in the Torah. Yud Kei and the studies, the Vav Kei and Niglas. Yud Kei is what is the levels of concealed, and the Vav Kei is the levels that are revealed. And the stories La Hashem Elokeinu, it says, V'haniglois lanu lovanenu. So this explains v'haniglois vav kei is niglois, but hanistaris that's yud kei. He's going to explain why are the yud kei versus the vav kei. The yud kei is concealed and the vav kei is revealed. It's because this is the general nature of intellect versus emotions. The idea behind this is yud kei and moichin. Like we said before, that Yud Kei is the level of intellect, the Vav Kei and Midas Canal, and the Vav Kei is the level of the emotions, like we said, they're Ampin and Malchus. Now, the general difference between the two is if one is outward or one is inward. So amongst the difference between intellect and emotions is the that intellect is inward and inside. And the midas are outward to another kidul kaman baruch, as we will explain at length further in the mind. It's just like it is in the human being down here. That the intellect is internal and focused inward, whereas the emotions are focused outward. The emotions that Hashem created are for the sake of the world. And the level of intellect are beyond the worlds. Therefore, the midas are no state of revelation to another niglois, they are revealed. And the intellect are concealed from the other nistaras. They fall into the category of nistars. Why are they considered concealed? So he's going to explain and elaborate upon this now. The fact that intellect goes into the category of the concealed thing, and emotions go into the category of revealed things. The intention of this is Klolos in Midas, the general idea of emotions, Gamma Midas Shibalev, also the emotions of the heart, Lefnation Megala Oismozuvase, before he reveals them to another, and Niglas are in the state of revelation. Valderach Zalidach in a similar vein. In the other side, Sheklolos in the general idea of intellect. Even once he takes this idea and reveals it to another, they still maintain him. They're still in the way of concealment. So what does that mean? How could that be? You're saying the emotions, when the person doesn't share it to another, still fall into the category of nigla. And the intellect, even when he does share it with another, is in the category of the starts. So he's going to explain as follows. The idea behind this is the session be the loss, the idea that the emotions are applicable and connected to another. It's not just concerning the effect of the emotion. Also concerning the emotions themselves. He's going to explain what it means. For example, the attribute of kindness. What is the idea, the attribute of kindness about? Its whole purpose, its whole goal is to do good to another. And without another, the idea of kindness doesn't apply. You can't just be kind to yourself. Even though it's explained in many places, the fact that it's impossible to have emotions without another. Top of the third page. It's only concerning the effect of the emotions. In other words, the action of the emotion, what the emotion wants to do kindness. That doing of the kindness is only applicable when there's another. Masha Enkin is as opposed to the person being inspired with the midah, to feel the emotion. How much more so the very existence of the emotion actually is it's possible to exist even without another. For example, he was in pain, he was suffering because he didn't have guests. What does that indicate? That his emotions were there to do chesed, but he didn't have an outlet for his emotions. The fact that he was suffering, that he didn't have the actual capability to help someone, to give guests something, because the emotion of kindness was by him awakened. Even if there was no other. Some people, they don't feel an urge to do kindness, but a person comes and asks for their help. It awakens by them a feeling of compassion and kindness and mercy. And they have rachmanas in the person. They feel bad for him, etc. Avraham Avinu, we see, had this midah of chesed, even without having anybody to evoke that kindness by him. And to such a degree he had that midah that he was suffering because he didn't have with whom to share it. And that's why Hashem brought the three malachim to relieve his suffering from the fact that he didn't have anybody to share his emotions, his kindness with, because he took the sun out, so he shouldn't be disturbed, recovering from the bris milah. So the Rebbe says, but let's look at the core meaning behind chesed that's been implanted. This only applies when there is an existence in this world, when Hashem created the world with such a being, with such a thing, that there is someone upon whom to affect kindness to, then you can have the idea of chesed. If there would never exist in the world someone to whom to give to, after Lisa Sardis, there would not be able to be possible the idea of chesed to be nisoider. There would not be able to be a possibility for that whatsoever. V'yiseirim is even more so. Then also the whole idea of chesed would not apply. The very midah itself. Because the idea of kindness is to do good to another. So, and if there's no other, there's no such midah in existence. The very fact that Avraham Avinu suffered from the fact that he had no one who to give his chesed to, Mugha, we want to say, the actual giving to another matters also to the midah of chesed itself. The tsar who when does the idea of suffering apply? When there's a lack, when there's something that's missing. The fact that Avram was suffering, that he didn't have the capability to help and to give, because the whole idea of chesed is to give. When there's no actual giving, the mitzvah chesed is lacking, and that's why it's causing him suffering. So that means that the very nature of chesed, even before I have acted upon it, even before it was nisoider, needs another. Contrast that with intellect. Just like in the emotions. Also the midas themselves, before he actually does the midah, they're connected with another. That is only the same way, the opposite way in intellect. The fact that the intellect are internal and just for himself, beyond any connection to another. It's not just concerning the mind itself, the that the purpose of intellect is for himself. It's not like emotions, not like emotions, that their idea is. Even the idea of the midas themselves is to be mashpia to another. But also, even the action, the working with the intellect, that can be, you don't need another. Even when a person is alone without another, he could think ideas as much as he wants. Though through giving and sharing with another, this increases the person's ideas and makes it grow. Like it says for my students, I receive more than all. This is only concerning increasing in the idea, not the idea itself. The very idea itself, also the idea in actuality, actually is can be also without the another. Also, when there's no one who to give to, those mukas, you can come up with great ideas and very deep ideas. Just the opposite. To really get into an idea and to get through it thoroughly, not only don't you need another, another can sometimes be a disturbance and interfere with getting my ideas clarified and come up with them and so on. That's why the majority of sages would be alone. It wasn't because they were arrogant or so. It was just, it helped to be able to develop ideas by not being disturbed by everything going around. So, this what Chazal say, Shah Sanhedrin, Noisim, and Noisim call Laila, that Sanhedrin, when they would decide a difficult court case, they were up all night discussing it. Not discussing it, but up all night, you know, weighing the two sides of the coin. Pirish Rashi, Ish Latzman. Rashi explains they were up all night, everyone individually, not as a group. They each individually took the time at night when it was quiet and separated from everybody else to analyze this. They lamed al mitzatzvara kishumayin latzmi daf to be able to come to true understanding of it is when he examines this by himself specifically. Even according to the Rambam's explanation, the Rambam says that they each had a partner, Chavrusu, whom they used to discuss this with the whole night. This is only with his partner. It wasn't everybody together. It wasn't all joined together, because that would disturb the power of intellect, which is something that cannot be developed and not be worked when the person is with someone else.